the obviously authentic channel. My name's Leah. That's spelled Lea and not Leah. So we're going to be talking about episode 8 of season 2 of Hilda. This is called the 50th year night. So basically, Hilda is still upset with her mom that she got grounded, which I'm just like, girl, you just shouldn't have lied. You doing too much lying, ma'am. And she's basically told she can't leave the building, like where their apartment is. Like she can't leave the building. While Hilda's in her room pouting about like not being able to leave, we see another Hilda running down the street, but Hilda doesn't notice this Hilda, and this giant worm like chasing after her. Excuse me, y'all. Chasing after her. Then we see her neighbor, Mr. and I think it's Austinfield. Yeah. I'm going to call him Mr. O, y'all, because me and these names. But she sees Mr. O, and he's like some little old curmudgeon-y, like, man. But he's her neighbor, and she's, like, staring in the backyard because she's bored. And she notices that he, like, disappears 1 second, and then he pops back another. So now, like, Hilda's, like, spidey senses are going off, and she's like, oh, I want to investigate. Because I think Hilda's just this person that, like, she has to keep going. Like, she's an adventurous. Like, she wants an adventure every day of her life. So then Alfred, I don't know why I want to call him Alfred. I think it's Alfred. I don't know, Alfred. We'll call him Al. We all know Al is the little, elf that, like, her homie, her little friend. He basically says that, like, Joanna told him, like, if she left the building, he had to tell on her. And she's like, well, I'm not leaving the building. I'm just going to be my neighbor, which is true. Loopholes. So she's not lying. So then, as she's going downstairs, she sees, like, all these packages. And when she opens it, it's a, magazine called the Trollberg Digest, and it's 50 years old. So she's like, kind of like stunned, like, what is this 50-year-old magazine doing here? So she opens it. When she opens it, she gets teleported back to Trollberg 50 years in the past. And then she notices 7 versions of Mr. O, and she decides to follow them. And Alfred is with her. Alfred is with her. And they're following him. They end up following him to a nightclub, and it's called Mirage. And we see, like, them looking, like, or, like, they're actually, like, stalking and scoping a young man and a woman. You know, they look like they're in love. They're enjoying each other. They're dancing. They're talking and things of that nature. And then you see them at the end of the night. The young couple is, like, they break apart. And all 7 Mr. O's look depressed. But then one of them notices Hilda. So then they all start chasing after her. So then she starts running, and she ends up, like, finding the magazine again that she opens, and she jumps, like, you know, she gets sucked back into the present. And then there are all 7 Mr. O's waiting for her so they can talk. So basically, Mr. O started getting these magazines. So when he opened it, he realized he could go back in the past to that fateful night where he met that young lady. So we ended up finding out that the boy that was there, he is a younger version of Mr. O. But Mr. O never basically it's kind of like The Notebook, in a sense, like a love lost story where, like, they lost touch with each other, and he wants to find her, but he could never find her. That's why I'm kind of thankful for, like, modern technology. Like, if you want to talk to somebody, there are means to talk to them. So, you know, but he couldn't find her. So basically, the magazine allows him to go back to that night every night to, like, see her. So I guess that's how he reminisces. The only thing is, like, he doesn't know how it works, and every time he goes back, there's a duplicate that pops up. And if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes. So then Hilda is trying to get Mr. O to, like, you know, change the past. And I'm like, Hilda, do you not, like, read comic books where it's like And every time in every book, it's like if you change the past, there's dire consequences, or you cause like a paradox, and then one timeline has to end. And I'm like, yeah, you need to read. Instead of going outside, Hilda, we got to read more books. You need to be more like David and Frida. Reading is everything. So she decided, like, if you're not going to change it, then I'm going to change it. Because you can obviously tell that Mr. O, like, all 7 of them, like, wish they had the opportunity to change things so that they could have a life with the young lady. But you know Hilda does what she does when she feels like it. So she ends up opening another one of the magazine, and she jumps in. So mind you, she's been twice to the past. So that means there's 2 Hildas and there's 2 Alfreds, because Alfred went with her. So think about that. So there's 2 of them. So Mr. O decides to like jump into the past too, to stop her from changing the past. Well, Hilda, some way, somehow, it's like a situation happens where Mr. O actually gets the courage to speak to his younger self and tells him like, go after her. So he does. When he does that, I guess it causes a new timeline. And then that's when we see the creepy worm thing with the hollow eyes. I hate drawings with hollow eyes. I want pupils. I want to see it. And the issue is, because they created a new timeline, that is why we see like the Hilda in the beginning getting chased. Is because they go back to the present and like things have like changed, but like we end up finding out that the young lady that Mr. O saw or had the connection with, it was a younger version of Tildy. And if you remember, Tildy is the badass granny, the witch granny who got all the powers and she know what to do with them. And so before we see that, when Hilda's like running down the street, we see Joanna in the car, and she's like wondering if she did the right thing by grounding Hilda. And I'm like, yes, like Hilda needs discipline. Like there's nothing wrong with disciplining your kids. But I also think like Joanna needs to talk to Hilda, because it's like Hilda does not tell her things. And I know Hilda feels like she can take care of herself and she can take care of, she doesn't really need anyone to like be there for her in that instance. Only it's like she's more comfortable being that way with David and Frida, but I feel like she should be that way with her mom, seeing as like her mom and her have been together, like they lived in the woods by themselves. So you would think like she would be, what's the word, comfortable enough to like share like her adventures with her, but she's not. Like we've been noticing since episode 1 that she doesn't tell her mom everything about her adventures. So Hilda is like running. So when we saw her in the beginning of the episode running, it was past Hilda, future Hilda running away from the worm to Tildy's house. So she runs to Tildy's house. Tildy temporarily freezes the worm, and we end up getting information that the worm is a time worm. So its job is to clean and get rid of old timeline. So it's trying to kill Hilda, because they changed the past, there's a brand new timeline. So their timeline is old now. That's why you don't change things in the past. So we end up finding out that Tildy is the one that was responsible for enchanting the magazine, and she says she doesn't regret it because like I guess she just felt like she wanted to give him a chance to see Mr. O, to experience a time that they both felt happiness and love. So then we end up finding out that the old Tildy, as we're seeing, so the way we found out that Tildy is the young lady is when the time worm jumps through these portals, you can see into the portal, and we see an older Tildy and an older Mr. O together, and that's the new timeline where it's like they spent their lives together. Well, before Hilda was able to jump back to the present, or like jump back to the past before she met Mr. O and all of this, one of the Hildas, because there was the two Hildas came to stop her, sacrificed herself. So Hilda died. Like Hilda and that Alfred died. So then Hilda is like running, and then her second one ends up dying too by helping her escape. So then when she gets there, the old Tildy, so the new Tildy and the new Mr. O basically sacrifice themselves so that this current Hilda can live. So when they get so the worm eats them, so that's like the regular timeline is okay. So they sacrifice their timeline so Hilda could be safe and the old timeline could be safe. And then because of that, I think Hildy also allowed the time worm to eat, not Hildy, Tildy allowed the time worm to eat the magazine. So because she let the time worm eat the magazine, it wiped clean from Mr. O's life. So it got rid of all 7 Mr. O's. So we still have one Mr. O, but he doesn't remember time traveling because the time worm ate the magazine. So it did its job. It cleaned miscellaneous time. So I thought that was wild. That he doesn't even remember going back in time. But Tildy and Hilda do. So then Tildy takes Hilda home and she meets Mr. O again, but like I said, he doesn't remember time traveling. And she goes back to her mom, and I guess they reconcile for their issues. And I was like, okay, it was a cute episode. It did kind of get a little confusing. I'm just not a person who's into timeline type of tropes or things like that. They always either they get confusing or I feel like they get messy. So if you don't have a good writer, they get real messy. But I was with Alfred. Alfred is still scarred by the fact that he saw himself die twice. Just like David has died twice. So it's Hilda, and it's weird because Hilda is not affected. So I was like, maybe that's just the life of an adventurer, or she need to be in somebody's therapy chair. But that's just me. So that's it, y'all. That was episode 8 of Hilda. Drop in the comments below. Tell me what you think about it. Hopefully I didn't confuse you with the review, because kind of confused myself a little bit. But I hope you're watching the series. I'm enjoying it so far. But yeah, that's it. That's all. I hope you're having a good weekend, a good day, a good night. Wherever you see this, I hope you're having a good day. And remember, be bravely authentic. Deuces.